Welcome to Impressive Drama. Today, we're breaking down the summary of Queen of Divorce. If you enjoy our content, be sure to like and subscribe. Whenever Sara returned home, she had to wear high heels and bow to greet her mother-in-law before talking to her. Despite her feeling unjust, she hid her feelings and tried to please her mother-in-law, convincing herself that such behavior was normal in a wealthy family. However, she was unaware of her husband's unfaithfulness. She was a smart and renowned lawyer and worked at her mother-in-law's prestigious law firm. However, her mother-in-law is awful to her and doesn't hide her disdain for Sara. During an event, Sara was puzzled when she noticed only 3 seats at the main table, and upon asking the waiter, she explained that her mother-in-law had instructed it to be this way, but instead of showing her displeasure, she calmly asked the waiter to arrange a seat for her. However, when the ceremony started, her seat was removed again. She was shocked by her mother-in-law's cruelty, but did not say anything. When the mother-in-law introduced her grandson to the guest, she stepped forward hoping to make her presence known, but her mother-in-law interrupted her. She was just a decorative figure in the household and nobody treated her with respect. She visited her mother, who owned a small restaurant. Her mother thought that Sara was living a happy life, but when she saw her teary eyes, she sensed her pain. Her mother reminded her, "As long as you are happy, I will be happy too." Afterward, she returned to her in-laws' home and greeted her mother-in-law, but her mother-in-law was displeased and commented on the awful smell that was on her because she went to visit her mom's restaurant. She even reprimanded her for not taking a shower before coming back home. She asked her husband, Yusong, to speak to his mother about the matter. However, instead of understanding, he criticized her. Her husband feels inferior to his capable wife and is having an affair outside, so he is not loving and in fact towards her. The next day, her mother-in-law gave her a case to handle. This woman is abused by her husband and she wanted to divorce him as she cannot stand it any longer. She filed for divorce. However, her husband hired the best defense lawyer, which was her mother-in-law company. The odds of winning the case was low and helping someone like him felt undeserving, but as the firm's chairperson, her mother-in-law offered Sara the vacant director position. The mother-in-law was a cunning person, and even her son was shocked by this offer. Sara worked hard and began preparing thoroughly to win the case. When the wife presented her medical report as evidence of domestic abuse, the defense lawyer also presented similar claims that the husband was also a victim of abuse. Due to insufficient evidence, the court postponed its final judgment. Shortly after returning to work, Sara's assistant told her that the victim's husband was gay. This came as a shock to her, as she had not known about it. During the trial, the wife grew emotional and revealed that she had undergone multiple IVF treatments to conceive their child. However, Sara knew that if the man's secret was to be exposed, they would lose the case. During a meeting, her assistant overheard the arrogant lawyer Mr. Ma getting the vacant director position and told Sara about it. Sara was furious and went to confront her mother-in-law, questioning her about her promise to Sara previously about the director role. Her mother-in-law shot back and asked her if she only married into the family because she had such intentions in mind. Sara was feeling shocked and betrayed and decided that she would live her own life as she had enough with her husband's family. Sara had anticipated this and pretended to make a phone call in the restroom. Sara intentionally mentioned, "Don't let his wife find out he's gay, there's no need to go through this divorce trial, the custody and property will go to the wife anyway." This was clearly meant to be overheard. The wife was stunned and confronted Sara about her husband being gay. Back in the trial, as the husband was cornered and couldn't deny the accusations, though she lost the case, she appeared oddly satisfied. Moments later, officers approached Sara to arrest her and she was shocked. Sara could never have imagined that her husband and mother-in-law would be so evil to conspire and frame Sara and send her to prison. Furthermore, 10 days earlier, her mother-in-law had already chosen a replacement for her. By the time Sara knew what happened, it was too late. The news was already broadcasting a scandal involving a wealthy family's fraudulent divorce to illegally send their child to an international school. The wife confronted her mother-in-law and it turned out that she managed to get Sara's stamp under a false pretext of getting her child enrolled in an international school and filed for a divorce on her behalf. Sara was kept in the dark about everything, but she knew that she was at great disadvantage, so she pleaded with her husband to find a solution, but her husband reassured her nonchalantly, "At least not the whole family is going to jail, besides our firm is influential and will find a way to help her." When the husband visited the wife in prison, she thought he had come to defend her. Instead, he told her to be patient and that a few years will pass by quickly. He also revealed that he was planning to marry the daughter of a prominent judicial commissioner, for the benefit of the law firm. The wife finally realized that she meant nothing to him. She printed out a picture of her husband and pasted it on a punching bag and began training, vowing to take revenge after her release. Yusong had a grand engagement party, but unexpectedly a woman turned up to make a scene. She was his mistress and was furious as he had promised to divorce his wife and marry her. The next day, she was found dead and articles claimed that she had suicide. However, the woman's grandfather staged a protest stating that she did not commit suicide and demanded a reinvestigation. At that time, Ki-jun was nearby and he had seen the woman at the engagement party the night before and was intrigued by the case. A part-timer at Sara's mom restaurant was also waitressing at the party last night and revealed that she secretly took a video of the woman threatening Yusong to call off his engagement and also Yusong instructing his assistant to clean up properly. Sara's mom wanted to use the information as a bargaining chip to get Ki-jun to help her wrongfully imprisoned daughter. Unfortunately, Yusong saw his mother-in-law visiting the prosecutor's office and called her asking what she was doing there, but he saw through her lie, and before she could meet Ki-jun, a man posing as the prosecutor's assistant led her away. Yulsong pretended to be a good son-in-law and arranged her funeral. Sara was devastated, but there was nothing she can do. When Sara requested to see her son and bid farewell before he went to study abroad, her request was denied. She realized that her ex-husband was a cruel man and she held her again in because she vowed to take revenge on him. One day, a prison official asked her if she was willing to donate her liver, and if she agreed, she could apply for early release. Desperate to leave, she agreed. She was unaware that saving this person would significantly impact her future. Upon her release, she vowed to rebuild her life. Unexpectedly, a former client was waiting for her outside. She had helped the lady to win a legal case previously, and now she is a wealthy socialite and felt indebted to Sara. She proposed that they open a law firm together, to specialize in helping women fight against abusive husbands. Sara hesitated as lawyers could not return to practice for 5 years after being released from prison, and the woman reassured her and said she will look for another partner lawyer. Together, they began setting up the firm. Meanwhile, the ex-husband enjoyed his new life basking in the benefits of his wealthy father-in-law's influence. He remained oblivious to the fact that his ex-wife has been released and was plotting her comeback. Meanwhile, the latest case was between a news anchor on trial for sexual assault as his personal stylist came forward to testify against his actions. Desperate, his wife came to seek help from Sara, and she agreed to help. When they were discussing the details, the lady suddenly received a call as her teenage daughter attempted suicide due to the public humiliation her family faced. Sara arrived just in time to grab the girl's hands and save her. Upon returning to the office, Sara learned that the broadcaster had hired her ex-husband's firm to represent him. Her colleagues advised her against taking the case, knowing it would pit her directly against her ex-husband, but Sara accepted the case as she wanted to fight them head-on. When Yulsong learned that Sara was taking on the case, he grew anxious as he knew her capabilities. Out of desperation, he orchestrated an attack on the broadcaster to frame his wife as the instigator. The media quickly spun the narrative, portraying the broadcaster as a victim of baseless accusations. Sara recognized the manipulation and knew it would be much harder to win the divorce case if public opinion turned in the husband's favor. Suddenly, they saw a drone in the news and knew that if they could find the drone footage, it could prove everything. They managed to locate the drone and the surveillance footage where it was revealed that his wife never entered the gate, proving that the broadcaster lied. However, to prove that the injuries he sustained were fake, they decided to devise a plan to make the man confess. Unaware of the trap, the man was led into their setup, and by the time he realized something was off, it was too late. He was forced onto a rooftop slope to trigger his survival instincts, and in that moment, he leaped. Both parties' lawyers met shortly after a recording was presented proving that if the case went to trial, the man would face fraud charges and imprisonment. The wife was thankful to Sara and her team and left with her daughter. Sara was grateful the case turned out well, but she was utterly shocked when her next client turned out to be her ex-husband's current wife. Everyone present gasped. After all, Sara's suffering was largely due to this couple. However, the woman scoffed, saying that if she knew Yu Song was such a horrible person, she would not have married him. Sara told her that it was inappropriate for her to handle their divorce case, and the woman suddenly revealed that she knew Yu Song framed Sara to send her to prison just so he can marry her. She added that their marriage was arranged by her father for business sake, but now her husband's true colors were showing and he had implicated her father in a corruption scandal, leading to her father's arrest. Her mother-in-law also began pressuring her to leave the house, demanding she divorce and leave empty-handed. She was shocked by their audacity, as her family had helped them when in need, and now they intend to discard her when they don't need her anymore. Yu Song also tried to blackmail her by creating a fake video against her, to claim that she cheated on him and force her out of the marriage. She was desperate, hence turned to Sara for help. When Yu Song learned of this, he ordered his men to bring his wife back, but his men reported that Sara had already taken the case. Meanwhile, Sara and her team began strategizing, and while they were waiting, Sara was kidnapped. Just then, a car hit the van, and it was Ki-jun. He managed to stop the van and rescue Sara. On the other hand, Yu Song was furious at his men's failure and warned them about the consequences. To resolve the issue quickly, he decided to stage a dramatic scene with his current wife and told her to cooperate with him. When he appeared in the crowd demanded his withdrawal from the election, citing his father-in-law's corruption scandal. A man in the crowd pulled out a knife. The wife was still confused about what her husband meant, but suddenly the man charged toward her, intending to assassinate her. However, Yu Song stepped in front of her and was slashed. Everyone rushed forward to help, but the wife was terrified and retreated. She could not believe her husband would go so far to stage a self-inflicted injury to win the public sympathy. Even as he was injured, he kept asking if his wife was okay. The wife pretended to comfort him, and this act restored her husband's image as a caring man. During his campaign, he publicly declared that although my father-in-law is a congressman, everyone is equal under the law and he won't favor him, but he also would not abandon his wife. His wife realized that her husband's true intentions, he only wanted to make use of her to gain the public favor. He was a manipulative person and made false promises to the public, such as pledging to rebuild their homes if he is elected. At that moment, Sara appeared and she had evidence of his misdeeds. She exposed to the public on how he had kidnapped her just days earlier and discarded people once they were no longer useful, and even coerced his current wife into a divorce. She asked the public to vote wisely, as someone like this do not deserve to run for office. Yu Song quietly ordered his assistant to take Sara away, but the damage was done. The public opinion started turning against him, and with the election looming, he tried to spin the narrative by holding a press conference claiming to be a victim of harassment by Sara. He praised his current wife and said that she was his constant supporter, and the reporters asked his wife to say a few words. Little did he know, she revealed his attempts to force her into a divorce and all his elaborate lies to manipulate the public. She also presented evidence of his wrongdoings, and his reputation was destroyed within seconds. He lost the election, and the media hounded him with questions. Overwhelmed, he fled the scene, and his mother ridiculed him for being so incapable. That two women ruined his career. Every day, Sara would look at the photo of her son, and even though she no longer knew what he looked like, she was determined to get her son back. Sara teamed up with Yu Song's current wife to destroy his political campaign. Even though Sara did not receive anything from her initial divorce settlement, seeing his current wife take her revenge gave Sara a sense of satisfaction. She even advised the current wife to let go of such a toxic household. Sara received an unwelcome visit from her ex-mother-in-law, who stormed into her home and slapped her. Even though she is furious and tempted to retaliate, she held back, knowing her son was still in their hands. Fortunately, the current wife had given Sara critical information about her son's location abroad and details of her ex-husband's illegal activities. Sara began to exploit his weakness to win her son back. The mother-in-law mocked Sara, saying that she is a woman with a prison record and will never be wanted by anyone. That evening, she received a call from Yu Song, and he told her that he would arrange a video call for her and their son, but when she arrived at the meeting place, It was clear that Yusong had no intention of letting her speak to their son. Instead, he pretended to make a call to their son in front of her, to make her desperate and angry. Sara lashed out, calling him a human scum. He was infuriated, and he grabbed her by the neck, almost killing her, until his men intervened and pulled him away, claiming he should not kill her yet. He locked her inside the room and told her to reflect on her actions. However, due to the violent wind and rain, the electrical wire was broken and caused the building to catch fire. Sara panicked as the flames consumed the space and was trying to escape. Meanwhile, Yusong ordered his men to return back and release her, but as they approached, they noticed a fire truck heading toward the site and asked his driver to turn back immediately. Thankfully, Ki-jun came in time and managed to rescue Sara, and for some reason, he felt sad. This pair of siblings always bring a photo of their late mother to eat with her whenever they are out. Their stepmother is a nice and patient woman and tolerates this sentimental gesture. The siblings know that their stepmother is the only person who truly cares for them and treats them as her own. When the siblings learned that their father wanted to divorce their stepmother, they were worried that she would leave them, but she reassured them that she would always be by their side. However, their father continued to push for a divorce, and she warned him to not act recklessly, since his company was about to be listed. Desperate, the wife seeks out Sara to help her, as she is afraid that her husband might fall deeper into trouble. Sara discovered that the husband, who is a member of parliament, was brainwashed by a pastor into filing for divorce. They decided to expose the pastor, so they infiltrated his congregation disguised as followers, secretly filming everything during the session. During a dramatic healing session, the pastor performs a bizarre ritual, claiming to remove cancer from a patient by pulling out a mysterious tumor. The crowd erupted into cheers as they were convinced of his divine powers. To uncover the truth, Ki-jun sneaked into the pastor's backstage area and found the tumor was pre-planted. However, as someone was approaching, another team member pretended to be blind to alert Ki-jun, and he managed to escape unnoticed. They presented the evidence to the husband, warning him that the pastor was a fraud, but he was stubbornly devoted to the pastor and even accused them of fabricating evidence. The husband even went on to tell the pastor that someone was trying to frame him. The pastor used this opportunity to manipulate him further by claiming that his birth chart conflicts with his wife, which is hindering his success, and urged him to finalize the divorce. The son fell ill and the father forcibly took the child to the pastor, ignoring his weakened state. The mother intervened and gave the child proper medication, but the boy revealed that his father had threw away his pills. When confronted, the father defended his actions by saying that the medicine is hindering with the pastor's prayers for his son. He even told his wife that the child isn't even yours, so you should not bother. This shocking statement strengthened the wife's resolve. Sara devised a risky but ingenious plan. Since her husband trusted the pastor so much, they decided to target the pastor's loyal assistant to uncover his secrets. They made him choose between prison and cooperating with them, and assistant naturally chose the latter. The pastor's loyal assistant secretly added some sleeping pills to his drink. After some time, the pastor was awakened by someone, and to his vision, a prosecutor appeared before him and accused him of using supernatural powers to kill someone. He immediately refuted the claim, insisting he had no such powers. To make the accusation more convincing, the assistant pretended to be arrested as well. While he was speaking to the pastor, he tried to ask the pastor of a way to escape, but their true goal was to provoke the pastor into exposing evidence himself. The pastor said that they did not have to worry, as the so-called sacred substance was just cow's blood. At the moment, the curtains came off and all his believers were standing there. They were disappointed and angry, and the pastor's days of glory were over. The wife seized the opportunity to strike back and invited reporters and publicly revealed that her husband was a blind follower who had become so obsessed that he refused to take their critically ill child to the hospital. To protect her children, she filed for divorce and gained custody of the kids. To thank her for her help, she invited Sara to be her secretary, and she agreed to it. Meanwhile, Yusong approached Sara seeking her help. Upon discovering that she was on good terms with such a powerful figure, he sent her flowers and tried to win her back, but she sent the flowers back to her mother-in-law. Yusong was reprimanded by his mother and told him that he was crazy to consider reconciliation, but the son told his mother to be more forgiving, as Sara's presence would be useful for their upcoming project. As it was Sara's late mother's Memorial Day, Yusong used this as an excuse to visit her and bring offerings. While the group set up the memorial items, they discussed the case of Yusong's ex-mistress. Yusong overheard their conversation but quickly adjusted his demeanor and entered claiming he was there to visit his mother-in-law, acting as though he was still part of the family. However, Ki-jun quickly took his offerings away and asked him to leave. However, he overheard a critical detail about their investigation. It turned out that there was a witness on the day that Yusong was quarreling with his mistress. Ki-jun felt that it was strange for someone as young as Sara's mother-in-law to suddenly take her own. Sara wanted to show Ki-jun a photo of her mother, and the moment he glanced at it, he felt a sense of familiarity. Suddenly he remembered the footage he saw of the person who wanted to pass him evidence previously, stating that Yusong's mistress' death was not due to suicide, and he found the resemblance uncanny. Sara took a closer look and confirmed that it was indeed her mother, and it was dated 1 year prior to the day of her mother's death. Perhaps her mother did not commit suicide but was murdered. The waitress who witnessed the event had a boyfriend who was abusive toward her. She opened the curtains and saw her boyfriend standing outside watching her. She told him she will call the police, and the boyfriend threatened her, warning that calling the police again would result in consequences far worse than breaking her ribs. After the boyfriend left, she heard another knock at the door. Nervous, she peeked through the gap only to see a terrifying figure standing there. She had only encountered this man once, but had witnessed his sinister methods firsthand. She panicked and fled through the back door. The sound of the door alerted the man. However, her boyfriend was still lingering nearby and mistaken the man for a stalker and attempted to attack him. However, he was beaten up as the man had far better skills than him. The waitress managed to escape. That night, Ki-jun also went to visit the waitress. She tried to flee, but she was dragged away by the boyfriend, who thought she had found a new lover. Just then, Ki-jun intervened, and her boyfriend mistook him for his rival and attacked him. Amid the chaos, the waitress seized the chance to run away only to collide with Sara, who had been looking for her. Sara told her that she was seeking answers about the girl who had been killed and that the waitress was the only witness. However, she refused to get involved and said that she did not know anything and left. Sara suspected that the waitress knew the truth, and she also knew that the waitress worked at her mother's restaurant and had a close relationship with her. Sara messaged her a photo of her and her mother, pleading for help. The girl agreed to meet and explained what had happened that day. She was working as a waitress and gone to the presidential suite for the first time, hence could not resist taking a photo of the room. However, she heard the door open and quickly hid to not be discovered. The person who entered was Yusong, and she accidentally dropped her phone into the flower basket and captured the scene of Yusong and his mistress quarreling, as well as evidence of him asking his man to deal with her. The next day, his mistress was found dead. The waitress shown the video to Sara's mother, intending to report it together, however said that her mother disappeared after she came back from the restroom. She later saw Sara's mother being taken into Yusong's car, and that night her mother was killed. She was terrified and deleted the video, knowing she was the only witness left. Ki-jun suggested moving her to a safe location, however the waitress's boyfriend discovered her new address and confronted her. He snatched her phone from her, and when he saw Ki-jun calling her, he grew suspicious of her and violently pushed her and even strangled her to death. Sara, devastated by the waitress's tragic death, made a firm decision to bring justice for her mother and the waitress. Even though Sara hates Yusong, she decided to remarry him. Sara claimed that she wanted to remarry to be close to their son, but in reality, it's to avenge her mother. Yusong wanted to remarry Sara to stop her from investigating into his mistress's case. The mother-in-law knows that Sara's has other intentions and suggests that the couple share a room, but they explain that they have been apart for so long that they need some time to adjust. Yusong pleaded with his mother to get along with Sara for the sake of her grandson. The mother-in-law asked Sara to cut some fruit and bring it to her room, and she agreed. She took it to the study and purposely cut the fruit in this manner. When the mother-in-law sees the poorly peeled fruit, she frowns, because this particular way of peeling is symbolic of a bad omen. She knew that Sara is deliberately provoking her, but Sara told her that she hasn't peeled fruit for anyone in a long time and quickly takes the plate away. Later, she saw a pair of eye-catching sneakers and curiously asked the housekeeper if there were visitors. The housekeeper told her that the shoes belonged to her husband's team leader at the company. She became suspicious as she had seen those shoes before. She waited in the car for the man to come out and snapped a photo of him to investigate further without arousing suspicion. She calls out to the man wanting to confirm his identity, and the man refers to her as young madam, and she feigns politeness while secretly planning her next move. She went home and looked at the video of her mother being taken away and saw the man's shoes, confirming that he was the missing driver. Through the surveillance camera, Sara discovered that her mother-in-law had been secretly meeting this man, implying that her mother-in-law had been hiding something from Yusong. Sara arranged a meeting with the driver and confronted him, showing him the video footage and asking him if he was the person in the video, but the man denied it. Sara deliberately told him that the person in the footage was someone they had been looking for and demanded to know what happened to her mother. The driver panicked and asked Yusong for $2 million to keep his silence. Yusong pretended to agree and told him he will prepare the cash and ticket for him to leave the country the next day. However, while driving to the airport the next day, his car is hit by another vehicle, and when he gets out to confront the driver, Ki-jun and his team suddenly kidnap him. However, they are in fact trying to save him as he was one of the witnesses to her mother's case. When Yusong gets home, he thoroughly checks his bedroom and told himself to be cautious of Sara. He even personally inspected the house for any listening devices she might have planted. He pretended to remain calm in front of Sara until she showed him the footage of her mother being taken away a year ago. Feigning curiosity, she asked him if the person in the video looked like his company's team leader. Yusong glanced at her briefly and then said that it did not seem like him. Sara had anticipated this response and deliberately told him that she may have been too desperate looking into her mother's case that she saw wrongly. Her husband was pushed further into the corner and was thinking about how to destroy any remaining evidence. Little did he know this was a trap set by Sara. Later that night, the team leader's car arrived at the designated meetup location. However, the next second his car was crushed by another car. They were watching from a distance, and this made the team leader scared, as he knew without a doubt that this was Yusong's attempt to silence him. When Sara questioned the team leader about why her mother was killed, he denied involvement and told her that he was simply following Yusong's orders to take her mother away, but halfway Yusong told him to get out of the car. When she questioned him about Yusong's mistress case, he panicked and tried to flee, but his nervousness caused him to crash, leaving him unconscious and going into a coma. Yusong failed to eliminate the team leader, and the next day, Sara questioned him and asked if he knew about the team leader's accident. He knew that the car involved belonged to someone in Sara's team and accused her of scheming something, but she calmly countered by saying that she suspects his mother and the team leading being responsible for her mother's death. She explained that when she confronted the team leader and mentioned Yusong's mother's name, he suddenly fled, and that led to the crash. She then went to show her mother-in-law the footage, and she immediately denied any involvement. Sara revealed that the team leader was her personal driver a year ago, and questioned whether it was her mother-in-law that ordered the abduction. As she lacked concrete evidence, she was trying to test both of them. Even though her mother-in-law brushed her off, Yusong started having suspicions. Sara's strategy seemed to work. Later, the mother-in-law confronted Yusong asking about the team leader's car accident, but he in turn questioned her back to whether she was the one who sent him. Even though his mother denied any reason for harming Sara's mother, the son grew increasingly distrustful. The mother-in-law ordered her secretary to investigate her son's schedule. The secretary discovered that the son's team was driving Yusong's car on the day Sara's mother was killed, and that his car was at the scene of the team's leader crash. Upon searching the son's room, the mother-in-law found the team leader's phone, leaving her utterly baffled about her son's true intentions. She confronted him directly and asked if he intended to frame her for Sara's mother's death. She realized she had raised an ungrateful son. He pulled out his phone and let her listen to a recording that showed evidence of his mother hiring someone to commit murder. Yusong's mother never expected him to pull such a dirty move, but the son angrily retorted that she crossed the line first by using her connections to bring him to the police station for questioning. However, she said she was trying to warn him and let him know that she is the only one that can get her son out of trouble. Yusong, however, said that it was his mom who killed his mistress first, and he only helped her silence his mother-in-law. She was furious that the son tried to make her take all of the blame and wanted to take a flower pot to smash it to the ground. However, Yusong noticed a surveillance camera, and Sara knew that her setup was being exposed. The mother and son planned to expose Sara during dinner, but she had already prepared a counterattack as they managed to link the $2 million transfer to the chairwoman's law firm. Sara instructed the housekeeper to take their son to another room, and suddenly police sirens were coming from outside the house, leaving the mother-in-law shocked. Sara dropped the pretense and asked which of them wanted to go with the police. Yusong was shocked by Sara's swift actions. When the police came to arrest the husband for suspected murder, he immediately pointed to his mother and said that it was her order. The mother was arrested, but Yusong was guilty, and he blamed everything on Sara. He called Sara, claiming that he was ready to surrender and wanted to meet her. However, when she entered his car, he knocked her out. Knowing that Sara would not let him go because he killed her mother, he tied her up in a container and forced her to record a message claiming that her mother had suicidal tendencies. Sara refused and asked him how her mother died. Yusong finally admitted that he pushed her mother off the building as she wanted to report me. As soon as he stepped out and wanted to escape, he was surrounded by police and Sara's team. Everything was part of Sara's elaborate plan. Why Yusong tried to act dumb and pushed the responsibility. Sara could not hold back any longer and gave him a kick before he was dragged away by the prosecution. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed our summary. Your support means the world to us, so don't forget to subscribe to our channel.